Hello, it's Katrina at the Sewing Studio. Today I'm going to show you how to make this quilt, which I call Dawn and Dusk, and this is made using a layer cake. For this project you're going to need a few tools: a layer cake, a rotary cutter, 2 rulers, so you're going to need one long ruler and you're also going to need a smaller ruler, but it has to have a 45-degree angle on it. You're going to need a sewing machine with a 1/4 inch foot. You're also going to need an iron and a pressing mat. So let's get started. So the first thing you're going to need is your layer cake, and you're going to sort your layer cake into lights and darks. And then with each square, you are going to cut 3-inch strips. So I'll just do that. So I've actually got a light underneath here, so I'm cutting 2 at a time. But what we're going to do is we're going to stack them into lights and darks like I've started already over here. So we're just going to cut that again. So we don't need that little inch piece. So out of one square, we've got 3 strips which measure 3 inches by 10 inches. You could do this with a jelly roll if you wanted to, but your strips would be narrower. So the next thing you're going to need is your ruler that's got a 45-degree angle on it. Now, even though this one has, it's a little bit cumbersome. So I prefer a smaller ruler. I'm just trying to see what I've done with it. Oh, here we are. So I prefer a slightly smaller ruler when I'm cutting these 45-degree angles. So you take a light and a dark and make sure they're both facing the same way. So here you can see I've got right sides of the fabric looking up at me on both of them. And then I'm going to lay the 45-degree angle here at the bottom of my strip. And then I'm going to cut off, just line that up. You have to be quite accurate with these, otherwise you end up with them not matching properly. So I'm just going to do a few of these. I'm going to mix the colours up a bit so we can use them when I come to put them together. So line it up. Let's move it up there a little bit so you might be able to see it a bit better if it's further up. And then you put your 45-degree line along the bottom until it reaches the corner. And then you just cut off that corner. And I'm going to keep all these pieces because I'm sure I'm going to be able to come up with a project for those. I'd be interested to know if you've got ideas of what we could do with these corner pieces. Because if you're anything like me, you don't like wasting any fabric at all. So I'm just going to do one more. And then we're going to go over to the sewing machine and I'm going to join those up. So then you're going to put your pieces into 2 piles. So you're going to have your lighter fabric and your darker fabric, and then you're going to join them together. So if I show you on this camera, and you have to get your 1/4 inch really accurate here. So it's imperative that you've got a 1/4 inch foot. So you lay them out and you can see that you've got this little corner here sticking out at either side. And you have to have that because if you tried to join it exactly here like this, when you flipped it over, you'd be a 1/4 inch out. So it's really important that you have each side overlapping by a 1/4 inch. And on mine, if I put that underneath and I've got my 1/4 inch guide, I can see that I've got that in the right place. So I'm just going to sew to the end. And you can see as the needle came off there, it came off in exactly the right place. So I'll just snip that and then I can show you. So you can see where they crossed over, the stitching came off in exactly the place there. And if you don't get that right, then your pieces aren't going to match up. And for this design, it's important that they do. And then when that's folded back like that and pressed, you can see once we trim this little bit off here, this bit, I'll just do a finger press and then I'll snip it with a pair of scissors, and you can see that it's straight. So you can see there that that's straight. And with this design, we're going to press all of them towards the darker fabric. So I'll just do a couple more to show you. It is a bit fiddly, but it's really worth taking your time. You get better results. And you might want to pop a pin in it. I'm just going to pop a pin in that one a moment. And just to have a look there to see how much I've got overhanging, to see if they're even. And I'm happy with that. No, I'm going to move it again. So I'm going to go to the iron now and I'm going to press those back. So I'm just going to press these and I'm pressing the fabric towards the dark side. I'm just going to snip this little bit off here because you end up with these little bits that go back behind. Now I've just looked at this one and I'm not happy with this. This one's going to have to be unpicked. So if I can just show you, hopefully the top camera is going to get it. You can see here that I've missed it and it's quite a bit. So if you look here, there's almost 1/4 inch difference. And that means that these aren't going to line up. So that one is going to have to be unpicked and redone. So I'll just use the ones that I've already done and I'll show you how this is laid out and then we'll sew a few together. So you start off with your dark fabric at the top and your lighter one at the bottom, and then you swap it around. So now we've got our light at the top, our dark at the bottom. And we would do that for a whole row, and then we would repeat for our next row exactly the same. So we would just follow that on. So I'm just going to sew a few of these together so you can see what it looks like. So now we're going to join these together, and all we have to remember is that when we're joining them together, we start with a dark piece, and then the next piece is a light piece. So I'm just going to lay that on top. Just line that up and sew down. And then our next piece is going to start with a dark piece. So we need to start with a light piece, but I'm actually going to change that because if I show you here, they're the same pattern, even though one's dark and one's light. So I'm just going to swap that out for something else. And that's what I love about this quilt. You don't have to lay the whole thing out. As long as you're going light and dark, it's really easy to do. And you can just sit at the machine and join them all up. I'm actually going to leave it there for now and give this a good press, and then I'm going to have a look at what other strips I've got, because this one's quite similar, so I don't want it next to that one. So I'm going to go back over to the iron now and I'm going to give this a press. So I press them one way so that when I come to join my rows up, I've got all my seams going in opposite directions. So all of these seams I'm going to press to the left. And the beauty of this quilt is you can make it as big as you want or as small as you want. So you would just continue until you've got all of these joined and you want it as big as you want it. And then you would do the same and you would join your next row, remembering to press your seams the other way once you've joined it all together. So we're just going to go over now and we're going to look at the quilt behind me and we're going to talk about that, because that one I only actually used part of a layer cake pack. There are only 36 strips in that one, and that one measures 38 by 55. So we're just going to go over and take a look at that. So as I say, this one measures 38 by 55. I've deliberately done it that size because I want it to go over the back of a sofa as a throw. So I'm going to finish this off with a fleece backing so it's nice and cozy. So I've put a border on it. The border was cut at 2 inches and that gives me a 1.5 inch finish. And then I've got another border which was cut at 3.5 inches. So that gives me a 3 inch finish. So I've just put that round it. I'm going to do the same colour binding as I've done for my border. And to quilt it, I'm going to do wavy lines going across my blocks this way. And that's how I'm going to finish it off. So as I say, you can do this with a layer cake, a jelly roll, any strips that you've got. But the trick is the difference between the light and dark fabrics. So as always, make it your own, have fun, and I look forward to seeing you here in the sewing studio the next time.